Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Laser Sports Academy. This is Butzer, and today I am with a very special guest. We have the youngest player to ever win the US Nationals at the ripe old age of 16 with RSD in 2008. Member of the World's Council representing the USA, tournament tech and general figurehead around the US scene. Runs a lot of local leagues and local tournaments, but also higher level tournaments that attract players from all over the country. Has played internationally in Australia, has played at the Worlds, has played in Europe, in Sweden many times, including with Monstro in the most recent SweNats. We've got from Fort Wayne, welcome to Luke Skywalker Beckworth. How you going, buddy?
Hey guys. Good. How are you?
Very well, very well. Thanks for coming on today, mate.
Absolutely.
First, just before we jump into some more deep discussion about the US scene, I know you've been playing for 16 years. You play at Fort Wayne. Tell us a little bit about your involvement in the US scene.
Currently, I still run the Ultrazone site in Fort Wayne. We host multiple leagues per year, lock-ins, stuff like that. So we try and keep the community locally involved, and we broadcast it on our ZLT US page on Twitch. Sometimes the stream isn't always labeled correctly, but I'm not the best when it comes to the computer side of stuff. Laser tag, absolutely, but um, we broadcast stuff to try and grow the community as well. So new players that are coming have a chance to go on the Twitch site, look at the progress and stuff like that, and hopefully get other American locations, other Ultrazone locations in America here inspired to do the same, and hopefully we can see more of that. Um,
Yeah, well,
Here.
certainly please reach out and let us know when you're broadcasting because we would love to give you guys a shout out, get some more
Yeah,
viewers, hopefully from some other places on the planet.
I'd love to also like steer a little off track maybe, but I love the
That's
way
fine.
you guys do it in Australia where you have like your calendar of like what's coming up. So people like know, oh, I'm gonna tune into that, next week or next month, and it kind of gives everybody an idea of what to expect. And you also collaborate with like different locations too. So you know what's going on at different locations. Whereas here it's like, oh, I think I heard that they're doing something in Philly. I couldn't tell you though. So that's where
Yeah,
we're a little
absolutely.
less communication, you know.
Well, it's all just a process of progress, isn't it, mate? So one
Yes,
foot in front of the other, and you just keep building on what you've got, and we
absolutely.
all learn from each other. Like we're learning as well, learning all the time from the international communities.
Yeah.
And speaking of international communities, you guys took a team to Sweden recently for the
Yes.
SweNats. Just very briefly, give us a bit of a wrap up on the tournament and how you guys went, and also just about the tournament in general.
Um, it was a great time. I'm just gonna start off like great people out there, great times. We all enjoyed ourselves, and I loved the way the tournament was ran. Everything was smooth. Um, Time efficiency was on point. Everything was great. Everybody was very generous as far as refing the games. Nobody really complained about having to get there early in the morning. Um, and they worked with everybody. So the tournament was ran perfect, I think. And the only complaints that I guess we had as Americans were um, the packs. The sound was very, very, very quiet. It was almost defeating, especially the first day. Some of the guys, I have one player that's actually deaf, so he relies on the sound quite a bit, and you couldn't hear the packs. If I'm complaining about it, I could only imagine how distraught he was on it. But there was that, and I think as far as everything else, there wasn't really any complaints about anything besides the sound. I think that was pretty much it. Um, but
Well,
the
I know how
tournament was
frustrating that can be because as a 45-year-old man, I must be just getting increasingly deaf, or the packs are getting quieter. I think it's the
yeah,
former, to be honest. But
probably
yeah, I know how hard that can be.
yeah.
Yeah,
But the team, we expected to do better than we did, but I think they also expected the level of competition to be closer to what they're used to in the U.S. Now, the players I brought are all very great. Um, they all have a lot of talent, and most of them are all brand new to the scene within the past 2, 3 years at most. Some just a year, under a year, um, and they're doing well here. Like they're placing in finals, in the U.S. Most of them, And I think if you looked at the what do you call the prediction panel, most of them had placed either third, second, or even first in a national tournament in the U.S. And then we went there and we got our butts kicked, you know. So,
Mm.
but they learned so much. They loved all the players out there, and we can't thank them enough for how much they were willing to talk and teach a lot of the young guys.
Yeah, couldn't take my hat off enough when we went there in 2019, which you were at that one as well.
Yep.
Yeah, couldn't take my hat off enough to them, how hospitable they were. And the biggest thing I noticed is in the difference to Australia. In Australia, there's a much more distinct kind of top tier, mid tier, and
Mm-hmm.
lower tier. Whereas
That's
over
because
there,
we had so many
you've kind of got
teams.
this big group of top tier teams,
They're
and
all so
don't really
good.
have a mid tier there. There's got a few teams that kind of expect to be towards the bottom, and then you've got this group of 7, 8, 9 teams that are all competing for finals.
We were happy if we even came close to beating one of the top teams, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, yeah, that sounds awesome. I can highly recommend to anybody thinking about going over to go over, and that's
yes.
been mirrored by you guys by the sounds of things. But let's get into the US scene, mate. Yeah, we're all very curious to hear about what's happening over there, and yeah, what's happened post COVID. Essentially, what tournaments are happening? What's the state of the scene in the US right now?
Well, ever since COVID happened, it kind of put a dent in things, and we've slowly grown from there. So I think we like had 4 teams in like 2020, and then we had 5 teams in 2021, and then I think we had 7 teams in 2022. If my memory serves me correctly, I think we had a seventh team show up, like 4 team comp, and and it was a great time. We played in near DC at Bailey's Crossroads Ultra Zone, most recently in Andreas and uh, Buckshot. I can't remember his actual name right now off the top of my head. They traveled from Sweden and played with Monstro there at Bailey's, and um, he shed a lot of light onto myself and to Jason Invalid, who is the main nationals organizer now in the US scene, and I'm more of like a co-contributor or co-host of the events now, because he's kind of taken that under his wing, and I do my best I can to help him out. So um but I hosted nationals in 2018, and then 2019 and 2020, and he's hosted since 2021, and he'll be hosting again in 2023 in June at Philly US Nationals in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, which will be, hopefully we can get another Sweden team to come out. I think they do plan on coming and attending. So,
Awesome.
but that's what's happening right now. So,
And so, um, from memory, the US scene is a bit different in that you guys have multiple kind of major tournaments that people travel to within the
yeah.
year. One of those tournaments being the nationals.
Hmm.
The tournaments you were just speaking about there, that was the national titles, getting
Yeah.
7 teams to the most recent
The most
tournament.
recent one was the U.S. Nationals, and that was, I believe, in the beginning of August 2022.
Yeah. And do you guys have the other kind of satellite events running?
We didn't do any other tournaments last year. We just did more local leagues and um, like lock-in events and stuff. Our most recent tournament before that was U.S. Nationals at my site here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, at Ultrazone, and that was in November of 2021. So a full year hadn't gone by yet. Just like I think, you know, Sweden did theirs in December, and they're going to be doing theirs, I think, in June again next year, or July, or this year technically. It's 2023 now. What am I saying? So,
It's all right. It
yeah.
takes a month to get used to that one.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but
And yeah, sorry, you finish.
we're just trying to, you know, pick up the pieces and try and get the community to work together, and hopefully we can host more events, even potentially if we have to. It's trying to outsource, like, because right now most of the scene is in the Midwest and the East Coast of the United States. We don't really have anything going on the West Coast. We have some players out there, absolutely, but I don't know of anything that's going on. No one really communicates, and it's hard to reach out and find out what's going on. So we don't know.
Yeah, right. And historically, one of the challenges that the US have had is operator cooperation. Is that accurate to say? So you
Yeah,
need
so
operators to you need to play at sites essentially. So you need relationships there that with
typically,
people that want to run the
yeah,
host the events.
typically speaking, it's since I run Fort Wayne's site, it's an easy location to host. Since one of the players runs Philly's site, it's another easy location to host. He doesn't usually like to host it, but he staffs it. He gets staff to come and work it, so he has the involvement and he gets the approval from the owner. Um, and then outside of that, it's really working with the distributors of Zone Laser Tag in America, because they are also the owners of any Ultra Zone that I know of that is a competitive site. So they own the rights to the name Ultra Zone, and we always have to collaborate with them. And sometimes it can be difficult just based on their locations, because they are pretty busy locations. So they're not. It's not really worth it sometimes to host a tournament there, as it would be to just do general public play.
Mm. Especially when you're building up numbers still. Yeah, you've got to be
Yeah,
getting to those 10 or 15 teams before it's becomes financially viable sometimes. So,
exactly. When they're bringing in like 9 to or 10,000 plus US dollars, they'll probably say, "Oh, absolutely, come on over." But right now, it's probably about half that. So
mm,
our tournament scenes don't draw in a lot of money for the owner operators, so that's part of the issue, I think.
yeah. And so, putting that aside, have you got some new players coming through over there? Or how are you
Absolutely.
facilitating getting the new players? Is it mainly happening in those,
So
Fort Wayne
yeah,
and Philly?
currently, Philly does like some sort of, from what I've talked to Karan, he told me that they do like free member nights, but you have to pay like a one-time membership fee, and I don't know what they charge, but they do free member nights where you do practice nights, and I believe you're also invited to like their leagues and stuff, and it's free of charge so long as you pay for that membership, you
Mm,
know, and what the cost is beyond me, but I know we're doing something of the sort here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we don't charge you for a membership currently to be involved for, like we call it access night, which is basically just a members night, and we host fun games, we host team games, we split teams up as evenly as possible, and we teach new players on positioning and um, and call outs. Those are like the main things that we try and focus on in the beginning. It's like, hey, if you remember last game, you were standing here. Yeah, don't do that. You don't ever take the base from there. So we'll
mm,
say stuff like that. Stand over here. It's a much better position, and so on and so forth. And then we'll teach them like the door call outs, or what it means when people say back hall or mirror side, stuff like that.
mm,
And in Philly, I'm sure they do some of the same stuff where they teach their newer players the same things. And I think the scene is getting better at teaching,
mm,
because a lot of our issues in America, honestly, are new players come in and people that are think they're better than them just absolutely annihilate them, and then they don't want to come back.
yeah.
They don't help them, but it's getting better. It's getting a lot better where players are like, outside of myself and a few others that like work at the sites, there's actual members that play there that are like talking to them after the games and working with them. So it's nice to see that those things happening. We got probably 7 new members at our location over the past month, and
Mm,
we welcome into our Facebook group. I'm trying to get on board with a Discord group, because I know that's like the newest, latest, and greatest thing that people use.
mm,
Um, I'm not a social media guy myself, so
yeah.
but most of the newer generation doesn't have Facebook. So the young guys, like, they're all anywhere from 17 to 20, the 7 new players, and none of them really had Facebook except for 2, I think. So they had to like create an account just to be involved in our event page and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I've
So
got new staff that I have to corral onto Facebook to be in our messenger group. I was like, oh, okay, clearly
yep,
it's transitioned now into an
yep,
old person's platform. But yeah, what you were saying about looking after those new players, I know from my experience. So our entry level kind of experience for laser sporting here is leagues. People come
yep.
into the league, and I noticed a very distinct difference in retention rates when we got our induction really nailed down, and then when we established that culture of like you can go to anybody for help. And I had that senior group of players who would like be checking in all the time, making sure they felt
Yeah.
welcomed along, that there wasn't too many social cliques, and that they, yeah, that was just a culture of like we care for you. And people love being cared for, don't they? When they come
Yeah.
along
And
to a sport, yeah,
they like being told that, hey, like you're doing so much better from last week. Like just last week, I saw you were taking the base where you should be now, and you also were looking at your door while you were taking it. Like that's crazy. Like in one
yeah,
week, you've gotten so much better, and then they're like, "Yeah, I'll be back." Like,
yeah.
and that's what we're seeing is as long as you're throwing them out like almost like a piece of candy, really. Like like they're
Yes.
coming back for more.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's a
that's
tough game
that's
to
what it
learn,
is.
isn't it? I mean, we don't
Very.
have heroes on TV that they can learn off. The Laser Sports Academy is working hard to try and create as much content as we can to help the
Hmm.
teaching process. It's just a support tool, really, but we're a work in progress as well. So I find that you spend the first 6 months of a person's playing career teaching them that it's a valid way to spend their discretionary time and money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, you really need to support them through that learning curve, because that first month or so can be pretty rough for them. So
Yes.
just those little wins, give them that little bit of candy as you speak, is
Yeah.
just makes such a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you can tell the players that have a knack for it or have a, a given talent for the game, and then there's others that you're really going to have to work with this person if you want them to stay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not going to have fun because they're constantly going to be struggling. But usually those are the shy ones, so it's hard to talk to those ones, and you kind of have to get with their friends and be like, help your buddy out. I know you're doing good, but you need to help him out, or her
Yeah.
out. Because, I mean, we'd love to see a larger, uh, you know, like diversity of players here. It's the majority. Like, I, I think we have 3 female players in the U.S. I don't
Mm.
even know if we have more than that at this point, but I know in Australia there was tons of diversity there. So it was great to see that when I traveled there as well.
Mm. Yeah, it certainly took time to grow. It was certainly a
Hmm.
boys' club in the early days, and I think we went from like
Definitely.
having 10% of women up to like more like 15, 20% now, which is great.
Hmm.
Yeah, great for the sport. And the boys stick around more when the girls are there as well, mate. So that
Yep.
certainly helps too.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about, excuse me, what initiatives that you guys have got in play for getting new players. Have you got things specifically in play, or is it mainly just shifting the culture to be more, supportive, I guess?
Well, that's definitely one of the factors that we're working on is the support and the integrity of the game. But it's actually a transition phase this year for us here locally, and I've talked to other people and what they're doing. Like I said, I talked to Karan. He goes by the name. His alias is Supa, and he's a Philly player, and I believe he actually works at the Philly Ultra Zone right now. I think he just moved back there. I couldn't tell you otherwise, but we're working on membership incentives where if you purchase a monthly or yearly membership, that comes with 20% discounts, or it comes with one free all you can play per night, or members night per month. Not per night, I meant per month. So those are the incentives I'm trying to drive, where if I can get a new pricing for members pricing, and then standard pricing for just general public, maybe it'll make more general public question like what comes with a membership, like,
Mm.
or you know what age do you have to be a member? Can my son join? Like stuff like that. Those are the questions that some parents ask now. But all I can tell them is, yeah, you get a member card, you
Mm.
unlock achievements online. You know, that's
Yeah,
it. And
yeah.
it's like
Your name
we
comes
have
up on the
members
scoreboard. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
night. Because some people do ask, like, what's the XP stand for? And I was like, if you
Yeah.
buy a member card, you unlock achievements, and like, but there's nothing in our site currently that explains what memberships truly are, and like people come out to our all you can play, and I don't know if you guys do that at any of your sites, but we do a 4-hour unlimited laser tag deal from 8 to midnight on the weekends, and it's pretty affordable. It's $25 tax included, and people play as many games as they can for those 4 hours, and we fit up to 42 at a time at our location. I know other locations fit more or less, and people have a great time. But that's where the member base really grows.
Yeah.
So if I can get our current members to actually come out to that and not just come out to members nights, that's what it really is. And I have a few guys that come out and work with general public that have been coming regularly but haven't bought a membership yet, and they usually talk them into buying a membership. And that's how our 7 newest members have, just this month, just this year, technically within the past 2 weeks, we got 7 new members this year already. So, and it's been great. So
I think it's a great initiative. I feel like people aren't just going to go straight to the website and go, oh yeah, I want to join the local league
nobody
members
does.
night. No, you need to have an entry level session which gets people just enjoying laser tag regularly. We do a 4-hour Friday, a similar thing, but again, I am always as a site operator. The laser sporting side of things is not the most profitable part. So
No,
you have to be careful as you're a manager as well. You understand it. You have to be careful how much of your time and resources you put into it. So it has to be simple. Yeah, it has to be reasonable and simple. And I feel like having that entry level session, which you're running anyway, if you can get some of your members down to it they just hear them overhear them talking about competitions, and it sparks the curiosity, and the next minute you've got people who have maybe attended 4 or 5 of these things in a row. Then they start to become interested in maybe, what's beyond just the the 4-hour weekend session, I guess.
Yeah, we've actually put up a 55-inch TV in our lobby. Like, if I'm at the front counter, it's only 10 feet in front of me, facing me, and a lot of people think it's our cameras inside the arena. So we had to put up a big sign that says previously recorded stream, and we'll put on streams from different tournaments, whether it's Sweden, Australia, US, and people are intrigued, kids, adults, and they'll come up and say, what's this? And if you look at our storefront or some of our photos from my site, I have, United States goes big with the trophies, right? So we have 7-foot trophies, huge trophies above us on this I guess trophy display, just all the way across that way, this way behind me. And people are like, what are the trophies for? And the plaques, we do leagues and competitions, and behind you there's the TV of that, showing them. And that's another way I've sold memberships, is just people are intrigued by it and want to play, and actually they can see how much I had to tell birthday moms, that's not happening in there right now. Kids are okay. They're not getting, those guys are good players. They're really, really good players. Your TV's down there. I have to direct them to the live recording, and so they can see their kids play laser tag inside the arena.
Yeah.
So, but that's another way that we're, we put the stream right up inside our location so that people can watch.
That's so good, because where do people get to see the game?
Yeah.
Unless we show it to them when they're in the venue. So that's a great initiative. Great. And I want to talk a little bit about the playing culture in the US, because you have a colourful history in the US. You guys definitely have your own style, and I want just to ask you about where it's at and where you feel you would like to make, or contribute to making progress in the area of culture in the US.
So, for starters, we're a heavy defensive play style, I would say, in the fact that we like to keep our defense in the base, regardless of who's there. And then a lot of players get starved that way, but they think, as long as you're doing your job and no one gets the base, we'll win, right? So you'll see a lot of stalemates in the U.S. in all through prelims. It'll be like everyone's figuring things out, right? Figuring teams out. And by finals, it's like everyone just hunkers down at their base and nobody pushes out. And a lot of what I've seen, whether I went to Australia or Europe, is the Australians are really good at communicating a form of attack. And I don't think Australia players communicate better than anyone anywhere. I mean, you guys are just insane with your communication. You never stop talking.
Until we get out of the arena, and then we go quiet again.
Yeah. Like in the arena, a switch just clicks, and you guys are constantly talking. So that's one of the biggest things, is communication. I said you guys can learn a lot from the Australians based on communication because they never stop talking. And then not be so, pushed back, push out of your base a little bit. Even the defense, you can learn a lot from the Europeans in that regard because we're just trying to learn from each other, right? So, because all we learn from each other in the U.S. is what we've known and what's been taught to us, and that's a lot of dogfighting, a lot of 1v1s. We don't like to play the walls. No one likes to get behind somebody, you guys are great at playing the walls too in Australia. That was my first introduction to, I gotta walk over here, and because he keeps hiding behind the wall, which is very understandable though, because you guys play a completely different game than us with the 2 shots per second. I won't knock it. I played it. I had a great time. It's not for me per se, but I will say it's still fun. It's still fun laser tag, It's and I just love to see our scene realize that positioning and communication. Those are the 2 biggest things that we need to work on as a community. And I think some of the players that think that they're good now, that have been around for a long time, like myself, or even longer than myself, they could become even better players than they think that they are, or they think they've peaked, but they really haven't even touched the surface yet, because they haven't played you guys enough, or they haven't played the Europeans enough. So that's what I'm excited to see, if we can get more teams to travel to the US even, and hopefully you guys could win here. And I'd love the US to win, but I'd like them to realize that there are teams from other countries that can do much better than us, even if it is our home arena, and that is a huge part to play in a lot of winning teams in the US, since we don't find like an owner operator, to support our tournament. So it's not like a even playing ground for everybody. There's a lot of home site advantages for teams to really take home the first place,
It surprises me about the bunkering down thing, because my memory of playing US players is that, like, you guys obviously love your Lord of the Rings, love your dogfighting. Don't worry about the wall. Just stand right next to the player and
yeah,
do a nice
so
drop
there
shot.
are base dumps where teams will just dump a base and just full on attack, but you generally never see the better teams in finals in the United States do that, unless they're already losing and it's like a last ditch effort to try and get second. Like they're playing for second, then usually that's what happens.
So the focus is much more less on winning because you've out base played people, but winning because you've beaten them on the packs. And then if you get not getting beaten on the packs, dump your base and try to win on bases, kind of situation.
And what I'd love to incorporate here in the US is Europe does it, and I believe it came from Australia. I don't know the player that made it, but you guys that get ranked, that you use the get ranked thing.
Oh, GRC.
Yeah, we don't have access, or nobody's. I've reached out to a few people. Maybe I should reach out to someone else, but we would love to use that stuff here in the US to kind of. I mean, it's not going to show everything in the game, but what it was nice for in Europe is to show my teammates, like, hey guys, look at your tag ratio.
Yeah.
And if you were on defense, sure, you're not going to get as many points maybe as me on offense or something, but you should be able to get over a 100% tag ratio as long as you're shooting more players than are shooting you.
Yeah.
And then they thought about it and they're like, you're right, I was getting shot a lot. So positioning, it can tell you a lot about like where you're going wrong in the game, I think, by being able to look at those stats. Those are so useful.
Yeah, totally. I think they might need a little bit of an adjustment because you guys play with stuns. So we don't have stuns here in Australia. So looking at the tag ratios, like super, like I don't even look really at the score when I'm rating players and stuff like that. I'll look first at the tag ratio because the score is so determined by what role
where
they're playing.
Positioned. Yeah. Your role is always going to play a big part in your score.
Yeah, totally. And I think, to adapt it to incorporating stuns, I think we could do that as well somehow, but just need a little bit of a tinker with the numbers. But
we would love it.
Yeah,
we would love that. So something to keep in mind.
Well, yeah, mate. Just stay tuned. We're going to keep chipping away at things on the Laser
No,
Sports
no
Academy,
worries.
and we'll see what we can come up with over the next year or so. Yeah, I wanted to. We've got a little bit of time left. I just wanted to ask
Sure.
you about the relevance of these international tournaments to the US players. It sounds like you do have a new breed coming through. What
Mm-hmm.
relevance does the Worlds have? Obviously, you guys went to SweNats, so very relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Australasian Championships, is there any desire for any players to go there? Are the Worlds of interest? What are the is the interest level for the outside of the USA comps with the US players?
Well, we'd love to see a lot of countries travel here to support and to also hopefully breathe new life into our scene because we show up with seven at most for our last US Nats, and that's kind of sad in comparison to countries much smaller pulling many more teams, and we'd love to see it grow. So, but as far as traveling, there's a handful of players, and I'm sure there's more that want to travel. Um, since I've talked about my experience in Australia, and Jason and Ballot has talked about his experience with a lot of the players, I know we want to come back to Australia. That was by far one of my favorite tournaments of all time, and just a all in all great experience because it's a completely different play style than anyone's played before. So you can learn so much about the game even if it's played differently because you can play the game differently. So it we'd love to go back there, and I know we're already making plans to go to Sweden next for their SweNats next year or this year. So and I'll be going there as well. So along with Archangel, who we had talked about earlier, I think, and he's going to be the captain of that team. So I get to sit back a little bit this time and just do my thing. I think so. That would be nice.
Yeah, awesome. So you're taking two teams or one team?
I think we're just taking one team to SweNats, but I
Yeah.
know that the team that I brought to SweNats wants to go back too. So I just won't be captaining that team, but um, my roommate actually, Phoenix, his name's Grant, and he was the longer haired guy on Monstro. He has a knack for the game, and he knows so much about positioning and what he should be doing. He's got great leadership ability. So I really want to see him. He's actually forming his own team this year for U.S. nationals, and he's going to captain the team. And he's taken some of the Monstro players from SweNats, and I'm forming a new team as well. Um, and it's going to be his first, practice, and I'm hoping that maybe he can get a team to go to Sweden as well. That would be great. So
Ah, that's exciting for you guys. The branching off of players and the forming of new teams, that's how you
yeah,
grow. So, and just so you know as well, next year, 2024, is in New Zealand, these Australasian Championships. So if you've got players that have ever desired to go to New Zealand,
we definitely do.
yeah, well, that would be the year to come to the Australasian
What time
comp.
of year is it?
It will be, I think they're transitioning it to June for that
Okay.
year. Yeah. So just a little bit of a side note. All right, mate. I want to finish off with a question. So, what does progress in the sport look like to Luke Beckworth?
Progress in the sport. Well, when you're playing for 16 years, I guess you got to start with the basics. Um, are we talking about new players or just progress
Yeah,
for
just
a
what
team? Or
if we were to say, let's say, this is more looking at a holistic, more of a
so like the
macro view at
community,
the
the
community,
community.
the sport as a whole. How do we
Yeah.
grow? What is, some people say, oh, we just need more people playing laser tag. So that might not
Not always.
necessarily be progress to people. Some people might just want to have a higher quality of
Yeah,
players
and
in general. So
I think that's what it is a higher quality of standards. So if we're going to host a U.S. national tournament, everybody knows what to expect. We know the level of, you know, uh, efficiency of how the tournament's been run. So becoming more efficient as tournament coordinators, myself as a U.S. Nationals like assistant coordinator, getting more hands on deck to help out and not trying to do it all ourselves. Like
yeah.
we do that too much where we just want to be in control. A
Mm.
lot of us, myself included, I just want to be in control, and it's hard to control a bunch of people and control the outcome of the way things are going to run. So having more hands on deck would be a lot of progress for us in the U.S. If we can get more volunteers and people that are serious about helping out the community, I think that's what we need to see the community grow is uh, less people, you know, speaking out about how it should be, and more people taking action on how to actually make it how they're saying they want it to be. You know.
Yeah. Well, if you've got a good group of young kind of leaders in your community, I could
Yeah.
recommend coming down to the Australasian competition at some stage because we've
Absolutely.
been running for a while now, and what a lot of what's been introduced in terms of volunteer teams. Did you see the volunteer teams in action when you were here in
Yeah.
Australia?
Oh my God, it was fantastic. It was just the amount of people that went through, whether it was the Twitch stream or helping get vests on and get people in the game, the way you guys do refing, like it all just was very, very organized, and becoming more organized is what we need to do as a community. Where and we're trying. There's a handful of us that are really on board of trying to do that. With in part, I can name some names for you. So like Archangel is one. Um, Jason's a huge part of it now, Invalid, and then we got people like Karan, Supa from Philly, um, Don, who's Nocturne from Philly. Those are some of your main people, and some of them have taken a step back, but it doesn't mean that they're not. They're still here. You know, they can still help in some regard, and they're still willing to, which is nice to see. So those are just some of four of the names that I can think of off the top of my head, with myself included. That there's only a handful of people that are really taking on those roles of getting things going in the U.S. And some of the players are outspoken, but maybe just haven't shown that they really want to contribute yet. You know, and
Well,
I
to
think
any
we
of
just need to
those,
ask more people too. You know, like
yeah. Yeah, I was going to say to all those people that you just mentioned, please reach out to the Laser Sports Academy. We can put you in touch with people. We can give you what we have, and we really want to help our brothers and sisters in the US. Continue to grow and develop their scene. This is what this channel is all about. So the invitation is there for you lot. Please reach out if they've got any curiosity about how things happen over here in Australia, and I'm sure the Europeans would mirror that as well.
yeah,
Awesome, Mr. Luke Skywalker Beckworth. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today, this
thank you,
afternoon for you, this morning for me. Uh, Thank you so much, and yeah, best of luck over the coming year to continue to grow you guys' scene, and we'll
thank
look
you.
forward to staying in touch and hopefully hear from you again in the near future.
All right, thanks.